Hello, my name is Mitch and I draw Blood Force, and we are back with more Jae Lee action with Wildcats Trilogy number 3. But before we get into that, let's check out some Blood Force action. That's probably better, right? Hello, friends. Welcome to Blood Force. So this is Blood Force. Blood Force is a comic book that I write and draw. It is both a celebration and a parody of 90s extreme comics, and it is full of crazy stuff like this, and the action is only getting better with every page. And in order to read Blood Force, all you have to do is open the description below, click the link, go to my Patreon, and subscribe there. By subscribing on my Patreon, not only do you get access to the Blood Force comic, all of it in its entirety, you also get access to every video that I make before I post it to YouTube, usually about a week or two in advance, as well as the pre-Blood Force stuff. So we're talking about the sketches I made coming up with Blood Force, as well as a couple of projects I worked on before I did Blood Force. All this for just $3 American. You cannot get Arm Blades and Vengeance for a better price. So subscribe today, let's get Blood Force out on those shelves, and let's give the world the comics it deserves. Okay, so finishing up Wildcats Trilogy, and as I said before, a fair bit later than Wildcats 1 and 2. So it's been a full, Wildcats number 1 came out in June, then September, now we're in December. It's been a full 6 months, and I'm not sure why. Again, unless that was just some kind of editorial decision, it's possible. But yeah, so we got the cover here, and that looks pretty great. That's a nice, intense cover. You know, you got your collage effect with Grifter and Zealot here. He knows how to pull that off nicely. We got Voodoo, of course, being possessed by the Daemonite, and got Emp by the throat, killing Spartan. Warblade's attacking her. Void is shocked by the whole ordeal, and apparently nobody told Maul where to look. But yeah, that's a hell of a cover. Alright, so, Witch's Brew. Okay. Still got Joe Chiodo on the art. Bill Oakley on the letters now. I think, yeah, Bill Oakley is I'm pretty sure that's a familiar name. Okay, so pretty much the same cast throughout the whole thing, even though it took 6 months, so that's good at least. They're keeping that together. Okay, so diving right into it, we're going to get Voodoo and Emp and Grifter's voiceover filling us in on what happened in the last issue, as just should be done. By now we shouldn't expect anything else. This is a pretty standard superhero pose for Voodoo. I'm a little surprised, really, to see it. But yeah, no, looks good, looks solid. This weird kind of halo effect here. This is Hightower possessing Voodoo, of course, and she's sucking the juice out of Emp here. And wow, we actually get Kirby Crackle here. That is not something I would expect from Jae Lee, and still managing, even though that obscures most of the page, he's still trying to fit in a little bit of tech behind it. Looks pretty good. Yeah, so he's still definitely pursuing a more slow down, maybe thoughtful style by the looks of it. All right, and she's just gonna keep waxing eloquent, and we see the state that the team is in here. Pretty good shot. We actually get full figure dudes in the background, even if they're just basic silhouettes. And whatever this is, I suppose that's kind of a background. I do these. When you want, some just threatening apparatus coming from the ceiling. Yeah, I totally do that. It looks good. Good to know how it looks in final print. I'm glad to see that. So what the state of the team so far, Warblade is essentially unraveling. That looks kind of gross. Maul is being perpetually tased. Voodoo, god damn it. Void, oh Christ, got shot in the head, and her void power is leaking out of her skull there. And then Grifter's actually in the best shape out of all of them, really. And Spartan got just punched right through by Voodoo there. Or Void. Take your pick, really. So big old hole in his chest, but he's got some kind of cell packs to heal the wound. And Grifter's able to help him out with that. And this is a classic Jae Lee trick, actually, completely silhouetting somebody except for the eyes and the mouth. And it works. And then we get, not Voodoo, not Void, this one is Zealot. That took me a second. And Artemis versus the Coda here. And a lot of effort going into this hair. Not really trying to make it look like realistic. Just kind of following the shapes. It's interesting. It speaks to more of a design sense. And I like this treatment with the panels here, where you do a hard cut where the figure ends, and then nothing else. And then because she's all hair, the whole thing is just a hard outline. And then, yeah, white space in the middle here. On an inside page. You'd think it would be the other way around. I'm not sure. Yeah, it doesn't look bad. It's interesting. Whenever you try and switch it up, a lot of the time it probably helps that these guys kind of know what they're doing. But switching up never seems to be that bad of an idea. Until the times when it is. But we're not there yet. So this is where we find out that Artemis actually was in this they say apostate, but yeah, the heretic was what they said earlier. Kind of the same thing. So apparently I got it wrong, and they switched it up. So good for them on that. But the deal is that basically she was supposed to hunt down Zealot and kill her. That was her mission. Or convince Zealot to come back and overthrow the current Majestrix. Andromache. Yeah. Who is power hungry and all that kind of shit. So now it's, Artemis and Zealot versus the Coda Horde. Oh, and that's it. Now we're getting back to probably more interesting stuff with Voodoo versus the Wildcats. And Warblade's trying to free Maul here as he melts. And Grifter, puts his hand over the head wound leaking teleportation energy. I'm sure that'll all work out fine. And Emp does the whole, I know you're in there, kid. You have to fight him. Again, interesting panel layouts. I like all this stuff. This is the kind of stuff really I should be looking at for figuring out just how to do more interesting compositions, more interesting page layouts, interesting little tricks. This is inside Voodoo's mind. I almost said Voidoo, because that's how bad it's getting. We're going to take a break from Wildcats after this for maybe a month or something. And we'll see if I can lock it down next time. I don't know. It's not happening this time, though. That's for sure. So inside of Voodoo's brain, her and Hightower are having a battle for her body, essentially. And I like this composition here, where the outline for Voodoo is basically her hairline. And immediately outside it is this Hightower dude. That is so weird. And then just spritzy with the ink. That is some wild shit. And Hightower momentarily retakes control of Voodoo there. But big ol' wham punch from Spartan. And this doesn't really look like a Jae Lee kind of drawing here, really. It still has some energy to it. It's just, with how thick that punch is, that doesn't look like a Jae Lee punch. It's weird. You'd think that it's almost to the point where you start wondering if there's a backup artist doing fill-in work on some of these pages. None of this page really looks a ton like Jim Lee, or Jae Lee rather. Except for maybe the silhouetted Voodoo head, which he he does several times to indicate that she's possessed. Not all the time. You know, there's this one here, and then there's the first one in the story where she's completely lit up. But it is something he goes back to again and again. So, but that's, yeah, about the only thing that really looks like him. That one a little bit, but like that, no. With that really thin line art, no. That one looks like anybody trying to go super scribbly to try and get a Jae Lee kind of style, but doesn't quite look like him. It's weird. If I had to guess, I might even say somebody else inked it. Anyway, then we're going to cut back to the Coda fight, and again, doesn't really look anything like Jae Lee. Particularly when you look at, like, just the, I don't know, the amount of lines on the forehead here. It's still a little scribbly, but not as much as usual. Like, this almost looks more like a Dennis Cowan or a Howard Chaykin. Again, that planned messiness. And then you get to the bottom here, and with the thick outline around the hair, it's almost like clip art or like a graphic element. And anyway, Andromache has been distracting Zealot with her many words, so that her last assassin could sneak up behind her and try and stab her in the back. Zealot ain't falling for that shit, so now it's just the three of them. Oh, just kidding. As Andromache is able to bring in more reinforcements through the portal, and this looks like a proper Jae Lee portal, where it's just all white, and then just scribble around the outside here with some white media. The hair here, again, looks like Dennis Cowan to me. Okay, and once again, back to the Wildcats. Yeah, they're just going to kill these zombie cyborg things. Zomborgs? There we go. Anybody? That's probably been thought of before now. So while they're all taking care of that, Spartan is still trying to fight Voodoo without hurting her, really, which does give Voodoo an advantage. She cuts both his arms off with her werewolf powers. Again, looks a little weird, but it's got some energy. It's got some nice sloppiness to it. And I like it just flinging the ink down, get these blots. That's good stuff. And she's going to go in for the kill, but then, Hightower's going to go in for the kill. Voodoo stops her. And right when that happens, we're going to get a Zealot pinup by Mark Beecham. There's not a name I'm familiar with. See, if this was a bigger channel, I think this is the kind of thing that might get me demonetized. So, I assume Mark Beecham draws porn. And I did look him up on Wikipedia. And yeah, kind of. I don't know if anybody remembers Penthouse Comics, but he had at least one story in there. So good job, Mark Beecham. Keep living that dream. All right. And so back to the fight here. Voodoo is versus Hightower inside her brain. We get a lot of silhouette stuff going on here because it's getting all metaphorical. Good poses. And then it gets a little less metaphorical and a little more weird as they both kind of exist in the same body, and he chooses to represent that by having them both jut out of the crotchal region. And then Grifter has him in his sights, shoots his torso a whole bunch of times, but apparently that's not where his brain is, and just chooses to silhouette the two of them for this panel, and that's probably a smart decision, because if you had to do it lit up, that would look kind of awkward, I think. So, good job there. And Spartan may have lost both of his arms, but that doesn't mean he can't still power headbutt, which is what he chooses to do, and that works. Apparently, he headbutts Hightower right out of Voodoo's body, and that almost looks like a Frank Miller Dark Knight drawing, with how thin the line work is, and it's kind of cartoony. It feels like some of the line work kind of got washed out, like it would have at that time. So everyone's okay-ish. Yeah, so Hightower's out. And everybody kind of mops up the rest of the Zomborgs. And then no mention of Hightower again here. So you would think he's like unconscious or something. But then later on they say he escaped, I think. So I'll take a quick look. I'll try to remember to look for that. And then we get Maul. And we're getting back to It feels, again, like he's rushing to finish this particular page where, because you get these stupid horn things, which is like the only thing that separates Maul from the Hulk. And then these streaks across it feel like dry brush or maybe even like a dying marker. And not a lot of thought into the composition on this one. Pretty simple panels. You get a lot of black on Grifter here, and then just a silhouette, just a couple of chords for the backgrounds. This feels like the kind of thing, if he is able to whip out 8 pages in a day, feels like the kind of thing that would fit in there. And then back again to the Coda fight. And we're back to that somewhat more patient style. And like again, in parts, it almost looks like Joe Quesada again. And this is I don't see any other similarities throughout. So I think that's not the case. Like, he's not trying to take elements from him, probably. It just seems to be a weird coincidence in their styles. Anyway, so Andromache is about to throw her stupid Coda blade at Zealot, who didn't see it coming, apparently. Artemis throws herself in front of the blade, which I don't think we've seen enough to justify her doing that. And, yeah, so then they're both going to get killed by the rest of the Coda here. And Grifter shows up, and he's just kind of listening in. And this is, again, rushed but differently, because we would have seen all those coils before, all those wrinkles. And I feel like we would have gotten a bit more detail on these guns, because those are just squares that have been scribbled over. And then this one feels a lot more like he took a lot more care with that. So maybe realizing he can go super scribbly on the dudes, and for an emotional moment, just kind of like, let's slow it down a little bit here, mixing it up. That's interesting. And right when Zealot's about to get killed, Grifter manages to shoot that particular Coda in the head, and then leaps in and puts a gun to Andromache's brain. Nice pose here. I like this a lot. Like, there's not a whole lot to it. Again, it's just kind of a silhouette. But I guess it's just really where that shoe's placed. Like, you get a total idea of how that pose is supposed to look, and it works really nicely. And I love this page layout. This is actually a lot of panels in a short space. And, like, super close up, nothing really in each one. Like we got a few where it's just a close-up of an eye. But, and this is, like, it's all, you could have done this all as one page, really. Just these two standing here. But, I don't know, that feels like it adds a bit more by being able to move in. It adds that element of time instead of just having, word balloons overlapping over each other. So I like how that ended up. And then the Wildcats teleport in. Again, weird looking shot of Maul. We forgot the horns. Doesn't look quite right. And they're going to teleport right back out again with Andromache and none of the other Coda, who tried to follow, but apparently they were able to keep them out. So this is going to set up a thing where the Coda are constantly hunting Zealot. Apparently Andromache is not willing to go all out in pursuit of this, because they threaten to just, show up on their island and, like, bomb the place, essentially. And she's not gonna just, like, go ahead and let the consequences be what they are. She's a bit too much into self-preservation for that. So she goes home. It doesn't seem like she's going to chase after the Wildcats. It's more just like Zealot can't go back to Themyscira, which she hasn't been able to do for 2,500 years, so I guess that's not a big deal. And then we get... Yeah, here it says, we beat the Cabal even if Hightower did get away from us. How did Hightower get away from you? He was right there. Just bloop. He fell out. And I guess it was somewhere around here when Grifter was running away, just they didn't notice. I'd be a little pissed if I was Voodoo there. Nice team shots, though. Jae Lee's always good at these group shots. They don't always make sense. Like, why would he be holding his hand down there? But it looks better than if it was the other arm. Anyway, so we get back to wherever, and Grifter is going to attend Lonely's funeral, and it turns out that somebody actually arranged for Lonely's funeral because he was... Did they say he's KGB? They did too. I'm not sure what's going on here. So he responds, okay, so Herr Schmidt, so German, okay. And then they talk about our KGB brethren. I don't know. So I don't know if Lonely stepped in on behalf of the German Special Forces team, which GSG-9, I believe, is what it is. But spoke to the KGB on his behalf, or if he's insinuating, if maybe they don't know that the KGB is Russian and not German. I honestly don't know what's going on there. But we'll just leave that for now. I like this picture. It looks like it was very fast. This almost looks like it was done, lay a bunch of ink down and then blow it out with a straw. And then spritz it up with the ink again. And then I like the reverse with the tombstones in the front here. That all looks great. And oh shit, that's it. Yeah, I forgot. No last. That is the last page. Yeah, so it's an odd number of pages on this. It's 23 instead of 20 or 22. And we're going to get some quality comic apparel where apparently they just take covers and put them on t-shirts. They don't really make a t-shirt design. That's a bit of a drag. And then you can get your caps. Some of those might be cool. Be interesting to have a homage cap these days. And then we're getting to the Stormwatch yearbook. Decent artwork on this. Dwayne Turner. Sounds familiar. I can't quite remember now who that is. Isn't that a writer? I don't remember now. Whatever. Ads for Wizard. That'll keep you in the top 10. And then the Killer Instinct Tour. So more cons. Also meet Brandon Choi, Mike Heisler, and Alex Gardner. Well, at least Brandon Choi doesn't think he's a headliner. He could. There's his name after created by on a lot of stuff in 1993. So I'm glad to see that he's keeping his ego in check. But so that's going to do it for Wildcats Trilogy. In terms of story, it doesn't feel like it set up much of anything, really. No. We got a little bit more about the Coda. That's about it. But not to the point where it's going to set up a future threat. We did get a lot of cool artwork. So that's something. As just a showcase, that's pretty cool. Most of it is in, I would say, the first issue. That's where all the best stuff is. But there's still a lot of good stuff. I still like that picture. That is a nice page. Okay. There's still a lot of good stuff in the rest of these books, though. It just doesn't have that same feeling of turn to any page and it's awesome. Although that one's pretty cool, too. Yeah, so decent series overall. And it's nice to spend a lot of time with Jae Lee for once. I feel like I've never really done that. But it's cool to check out. So, yeah, that's going to do it for Wildcats Trilogy, period. Thanks very much for watching this one. If you like this video, please hit like, hit subscribe, hit the notifications, go over, follow me on Twitter. More importantly, go and subscribe on Patreon. That's where all of these videos go before they get put on YouTube, usually about a week or so in advance. So the next series is already up on Patreon. Actually, that's been done for a little while, but that's okay. But that's also where the Blood Force pages go. So all of your Blood Force stuff, that's where you're going to go and see it. As well as process stuff and a few Patreon exclusives. So worth checking out. But yeah, thanks again for watching this video. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.